Hi, it's Carol Fitzgerald from readinggroupguides.com, a website from the Book Report Network, and I want to welcome you to our 9th annual Book Group Speed Dating event. It's going to be an opportunity for you to hear from 25 publishers, small, medium, and large publishers, about the books that they have upcoming in the next couple of months that are of interest to book groups. So sit back, grab a pen, start to make some notes of what we think that book groups are going to be wanting to be reading and discussing in the months to come.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you come in. Thank you for joining me. My name is Emer Flounders, and I'm here to tell you about some of the great things we have coming up from Harlequin Trade Publishing through the rest of 2020. I'm going to start off in the great city of Chicago with Catherine Adele West's debut novel, Saving Ruby King, which eloquently captures the city's complexities and contradictions in an epic South Side set story of a young woman determined to protect her best friend and a deadly secret that threatens to undermine them both. When Alice King is murdered in her South Side home, the police dismisses just another random act of violence in a black neighborhood. But her daughter, Ruby, knows that her father is responsible. Layla, Ruby's best friend and the pastor's daughter, too knows this secret, but is directed by her father to steer clear of the King family. The story vacillates between these two characters, but it's really the perspective of the church, kind of a bird's eye view of the entire community that begins to unfold a secret and a murder that's been buried for 3 generations. Catherine Adele West was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, herself the daughter of a pastor. While a novel, the Black church community depicted in the book is drawn from her everyday life. A crucial pilgrimage through a racially divided landscape, Saving Ruby King explores the ways in which history doesn't necessarily determine the present and how the bonds of friendship can forever shape the future. This one hits shelves in June. Next up, Set My Heart to 5 is the debut novel from former Pixar screenwriter Simon Stevenson. Perfect for fans of Frederick Bachman, it's the delightful and deceptively poignant story of Jared, a small-town dentist in Michigan with a totally normal life, with one glaring exception. He is a bot engineered with human DNA to look and act like a real person. One day, while watching a classic movie, Jared feels a strange sensation around his eyes and is almost certain he's crying. Confused, he watches some more old movies, a process that leads to an emotional awakening. Jared, it turns out, can feel. Facing an imminent reset, Jared heads west, determined to write a screenplay that will forever change the way the world views bots. But a bot with feelings is a dangerous proposition, and Jared's new life could come to an end before it truly begins. Now, Set My Heart to 5 is already being developed into a major motion picture by director Edgar Wright. Wholly original, Stevenson's debut is a profound exploration of what makes us human and a love letter to outsiders everywhere. This one will hit shelves in September. Moving along, a taut murder mystery and moving mother-daughter story, Nancy Ju-Yoon Kim's The Last Story of Mina Lee illustrates the devastating realities of being a poor, undocumented immigrant in America today. The story begins with 26-year-old Margot visiting her childhood home in Los Angeles' Koreatown and discovering that her mother, Mina, has suspiciously died. The horrific event sends her digging through her mother's past, unraveling the tenuous invisible strings that held together her life as a Korean war orphan, a single parent, and an undocumented immigrant. The story is interwoven with Mina's first years in Los Angeles, including a love story that reveals the truth of what happened the night of her death. Nancy Ju-Yoon Kim's writing has appeared in the Los Angeles Review of Books, Guernica, The Rumpus, and other literary outlets. Told through the intimate lens of a mother and daughter who have struggled all their lives to understand each other, The Last Story of Mina Lee is both a gripping page-turner and a profound family saga that explores identity, secrets, and what it truly means to belong. This one goes on sale in September as well. Next up, Master of Suspense Lisa Unger returns with Confessions on the 745, a riveting psychological thriller that begins with a chance encounter on a commuter train and shows why you should never, ever make conversations with strangers. Selena is commuting home from her job in the city when the train stalls out on the tracks. She strikes up a conversation with a beautiful stranger in the next seat who introduces herself as Martha and immediately confesses she's stuck in an affair with her boss. Selena, in turn, admits that she suspects her husband is sleeping with their nanny. When the train arrives at the station, the two women part ways, presumably never to meet again. But days later, Selena's nanny disappears. Now, Lisa Unger never disappoints, and Confessions is no different. Expertly plotted and reminiscent of the timeless classic Strangers on a Train, Confessions on the 745 is a gripping thriller about the delicate facades we create around our lives. This one goes on sale in October. Moving along, in advance of the 50th anniversary of Coco Chanel's passing in January 2021, Texas author Judith Little brings readers The Chanel Sisters, a captivating historical novel that follows Coco and her younger sister Antoinette's struggles to overcome poverty and establish the world's most iconic fashion brand. The Chanel sisters know they're destined for something better than the orphanage their parents abandoned them in. Finally of age, they set out, determined to prove themselves worthy to a society that has never accepted them. Their journey propels them to stylish cafes, dazzling performance halls, and finally to a small hat shop in Paris where their business takes hold. But on the eve of World War I, the sisters must gather the courage to, fashion their own places in the world, even if it means being apart from each other. With the Chanel sisters, Judith Little delivers a sweeping story of women challenging societal conventions and triumphing over adversity, all while exploring the genesis of the ubiquitous Chanel brand, its enduring illusion, and the sisters who brought it to life. The Chanel Sisters goes on sale at the end of December. And last but definitely not least, Taryn Fisher set the suspense world on fire with the publication of last year's The Wives, earning praise from the likes of USA Today, Glamour, Bustle, and not to mention readers all over the world. In December, she returns with The Wrong Family, a story of a slowly unraveling marriage and the eccentric narrator who bears witness to it all. So Juno feels lucky to be living in Winnie and Nigel's house. Even if she has to share her space, they're a wonderful young couple. I mean, sure, they have their problems, and really, who doesn't? But one day, Juno sees something that she can't unsee and is suddenly faced with the decision. Stay silent, and in doing so, stay safe, or act on what she saw and risk everything, even her own life. The Wives was an instant New York Times bestseller, remaining on the list for several weeks and continues to sell like crazy. Taryn Fisher has written 9 other novels and has an incredibly vocal fan base online who call themselves the passionate little nutcases. You'll be joining their ranks when The Wrong Family goes on sale in December. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Looking forward to speaking to you soon.
Hi, my name is Colleen Nuccio, and I'm here to talk to you about 6 exciting new books coming out from Random House that are perfect book club picks. The first is Bestiary by K. Ming Chang. In this spellbinding and visceral debut, 3 generations of Taiwanese American women are haunted by the myths of their homeland. This electric novel is about one family's desires, violent impulses, and buried secrets. The novel spans continents and locales, seamlessly moving from Taiwan to America and Arkansas to California. Chang is 23 years old and wrote her debut novel while still in college. She was inspired to write Bestiary by the stories her grandparents used to tell her, including myths like a daughter waking up with a tiger's tail, an aunt arriving with snakes in her belly, and holes in the backyard spitting out handwritten letters from the past. This novel is perfect for fans of Helen Oyeyemi and Maxine Hong Kingston. It goes on sale September 8th. Our second pick is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Sylvia is the acclaimed author of Gods of Jade and Shadow, and her latest book is a reimagining of the classic goth suspense novel, a story about an isolated mansion in 1950s Mexico, and the brave socialite drawn to its treacherous secrets. After receiving a frantic letter from her newlywed cousin begging for someone to save her from a mysterious dune, Noemi heads to High Place, a distant house in the Mexican countryside. She's not sure what she will find. Her cousin's husband, a handsome Englishman, is a stranger, and Noemi knows little about the region. Noemi is also an unlikely rescuer. She's a glamorous debutante, and her chic gowns and perfect red lipstick are more suited for cocktail parties than amateur sleuthing. But she's also tough and smart, with an indomitable will, and she will not be afraid. Not of her cousin's new husband, who is both menacing and alluring, not of his father, the ancient patriarch who seems to be fascinated with Noemi, and not even of the house itself, which begins to invade Noemi's dreams and visions with blood and doom. Mexican Gothic is an atmospheric novel that defies genre and evokes Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. It will be available June 30th, and we are creating an official book club kit and Spotify playlist. Our third selection is The Smallest Lights in the Universe by Sarah Seeger. This inspiring memoir is about love, resilience, and finding the light in the dark. In her early 40s, the author is forced to reinvent herself and find a new path in a life after the death of her husband and the father of her young children. Seeger is a celebrated astrophysicist and beautifully interweaves her personal story with her professional search for life on other planets, discovering that they're actually very similar pursuits. The Smallest Lights in the Universe is perfect for fans of Kelly Corrigan and Paul Kalanithi. It will be available August 18th, and we are creating a curated discussion guide for book groups. Fourth, we have A Knock at Midnight by Brittany K. Barnett. This is a riveting debut memoir for readers of Just Mercy and the New Jim Crow. A Knock at Midnight is a story of hope, justice, and freedom. It is the inspiring true story about one young lawyer's urgent call to free those buried alive by America's legal system. Award-winning attorney Brittany K. Barnett has dedicated her life to criminal justice reform. As the daughter of a formerly incarcerated mother and the once girlfriend of an abusive drug dealer, she has felt the far-reaching effects of mass incarceration firsthand. In battling this epidemic that devastates families, she has taken on a roster of clients who are almost exclusively people serving life sentences for federal drug offenses. Her work has freed numerous individuals from overly harsh sentences, including 7 clients who recently received executive clemency from President Obama. More recently, she was part of the legal team that helped secure clemency from President Trump for Alice Johnson, a case that brought Kim Kardashian West to the White House to advocate for her release. This is a memoir that will touch hearts and be nearly impossible to put down. A Knock at Midnight will go on sale September 8th, and there will be discussion questions available. Our fifth selection is Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. This heartwarming new novel from the best-selling author of The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry is an uplifting story about 2 women with nothing in common who trek across the world in search of a beetle that may not exist and end up discovering a friendship that defies all boundaries. Miss Benson's Beetle takes place in the 1950s England right after World War II has come to an end and takes the reader via boat and plane all the way to New Caledonia. It's perfect for fans of quirky, unusual female friendships reminiscent of Thelma and Louise. Joyce is cherished by readers for her ability to write heartwarming, uplifting love stories, and for the first time, her topic is that great other love story, female friendship. It's the perfect book club read, and will be available November 24th. Last, but certainly not least, is our 6th pick, The Book of Two Ways, from #1 New York Times bestselling author Jodi Picoult. Everything changes in a single moment for Dawn Edelstein. She's on a plane when the flight attendant makes an announcement: prepare for a crash landing. She braces herself as thoughts flash through her mind. The shocking thing is, the thoughts are not of her husband, but a man she last saw 15 years ago, Wyatt Armstrong. Dawn miraculously survives the crash, but so do all those doubts that have suddenly been raised. She has led a good life. Back in Boston, there's her husband, Brian, her beloved daughter, and her work as a death doula, where she helps ease the transition between life and death for her clients. She must now confront the questions she has never truly asked. What does a life well lived look like? When we leave this earth, what do we leave behind? Do we make choices, or do our choices make us? And who would we be if we hadn't turned out to be the person you are right now? The Book of Two Ways is a riveting novel about the choices that change the course of our lives. It will be available September 22nd. If you're looking for more book recommendations, join Random House Book Club. RHBC draws readers and books together by recommending compelling stories, providing guidance for book club leaders and newbies, and connecting authors with book clubs through phone chats. You can join by signing up for our weekly newsletter and following our Facebook page. We also have a monthly spotlight pick that we read as a group and discuss in our Zoom happy hours. It's a great way to talk about compelling books with other like-minded readers. Go to randomhousebookclub.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCluskey, Associate Publisher of Tin House Books. I'm thrilled to talk to you about some summer and fall books we have coming up. The first book I'm going to tell you about, Vera Kelly is Not a Mystery by Rosalie Connect. Hopefully you remember who is Vera Kelly. Came out 2 years ago. We had so much fun publishing this book. It was an NPR Best Book of the Year, got a splashy New York Times review, People, Entertainment Weekly. Autostraddle called it the lesbian spy novel of your dreams, which was the author's favorite quote. And every reviewer said, please make it a series, please make it a series. I'm thrilled to announce it's a series. This is book 2. It's coming out in June. Vera Kelly, our beloved narrator, is back in New York. It's 1960. She's nursing a nasty breakup. She just lost her job. These happened on the same day. She's trying to figure out what to do to pay rent, and she opens up a detective agency. Quickly, some clients come knocking, and one of our first clients is this family from one of the most powerful families in the Dominican Republic, and their great nephew is missing somewhere in New York, and Vera takes the case. She travels all over the U.S. trying to track this down, trying to figure out the truth, never knows who she can trust and who she can't trust, and we have all of her sparkling wit, all of her fierce determination, intensity, and moral fiber, and you can't help falling in love with Vera Kelly. So this book is thrilling, it's a page turner, it's compulsive, it's most of all fun. I think you're gonna love it. Second is the book of Atlantis Black. This is a memoir. The subtitle is The Search for a Sister Gone Missing. This is a book that I've read so many times and I still can't believe it's true. It starts in a seedy motel room in Tijuana. There's a body on the floor. A young woman's died, apparently from a heroin overdose. She has a Good Karma t-shirt, and the ID in her purse says Atlantis Black. The Mexican police say, kind of casually, that interesting how the body doesn't seem to match the ID. They do a cursory autopsy and cremate the body without making a positive ID. So Atlantis' sister, Betsy, searching to figure out what happened to her sister. Was it really her sister? She takes us back into their childhood, the abusive father, the mentally ill mother, and how these kind of sisters were formed. Betsy just dug herself into books and kind of escaped that way. Atlantis went the other direction. She got into drugs and music, but her music career was on the verge of blowing up. She was opening for Regina Spektor. There was a music documentary being made of her. She got a big gig with a record producer, and then everything just starts to unravel. And Betsy's putting you into the mind of Atlantis. You have text messages, you have weird Craigslist ads, you have all these things together, and you're trying to understand this case as she is. It is so intense. Atlantis jumps off the page. She reminds me so much of the Angelina Jolie character in Girl Interrupted. So this book is going to remind you of Girl Interrupted. It's going to remind you of Brain on Fire. It's going to remind you of The Red Parts by Maggie Nelson. It's smart, it's beautifully written, and it's absolutely propulsive. Everybody's read it in a sitting. Next is A Girl is a Body of Water by Jennifer Nansbuga Mukambi. This is it. This is our lead title for the fall. It comes out on September 1st. And it's a stunner. Jennifer won the Wyndham Campbell Prize Award. She also won the Commonwealth. You know who else won the Commonwealth? Zadie Smith, J.M. Coetzee, Salman Rushdie, Margaret Atwood. This is the company she's in. She's a serious writer. And this story, oh my gosh, takes place in this village in Uganda. And our narrator is this 12-year-old Karabo. And she's laying in bed one night and this strange feeling overcomes her. A second self comes out of her body and it's flying. And she can see herself, she can see the grandparents who take care of her, the aunts who all live with her, her cousins, and then she goes out in the whole village. She doesn't understand what's happening. And she goes to the village witch to try and get some answers. And she finds out that she is the first woman. She's one of the original women. And this has been kind of bred out after generations and generations, but she's kept this streak in her, and it's a rebellious, independent streak, and she still has it. And she's trying to figure out what it is and what it means and why is she flying. But most urgently for Carabo is trying to understand who her mother is and why her mother left her. This story is a story about women. It's about what drives us, what history's done to us, and how we can come back together again. It is gorgeous. It is sweeping. It's something you absolutely want to read. We are pinning a lot of hopes on this book. We think it's going to be enormous. Next is Bright and Dangerous Objects by Annalise McIntosh. This is the perfect escape reading right now. It's set in the near future. It's tinged with science fiction, but it's an extraordinary story. So Solveig, our narrator, finds out she's one of 100 people chosen for the Mars project. What that means is she's going to Mars and is going to live on Mars. This is a one-way ticket. There's no coming back from this. So she has to understand this is incredibly exciting for her, but then she has to leave her partner, James, who desperately wants to have a child. She has to leave her ailing father, everything that she knows, and then she gets pregnant. And Solveig is like no person that I've ever met in real life or a character I've met in a book. She's so extraordinary and she jumped off the page. I truly feel like I know her. And when she miscarried that first child, I cried with her. And when she gets pregnant again, I celebrate it, but I knew the complications. What this book is really dealing with is what it means to be an ambitious woman and how that competes with motherhood, and that we do have to choose this. Annalise is the perfect person to tell this story. Her dad very, very much wanted to be an astronaut, and he stayed in astronomy, but he was not able to actually go into space because he had a child, and this is what Annalise suspects, that this kept him away from this. The story feels personal, it feels urgent, it feels like exactly what I want to be reading right now. I think it's has all the big book potential. I think it'll remind you of a Meg Wolitzer or a Lily King. So please, Bright and Dangerous Objects, check it out. And last, and I'm running out of time now, The Butcher's Blessing by Ruth Gilligan. This book, it's Irish. It takes place in the 1990s, so imagine the Cranberries are on the airwaves, and my boss always compares it to, he says, what if Tana French, Cormac McCarthy, and Daniel Woodrell all conspired together to write a literary thriller? This is what it would be, and I totally get that. It is, it's page turning. It's getting at Ireland, and the land is so vivid in this book. What the underlying issue is, it's the 90s, and Ireland is taking one step into be part of the global economy, the global workforce, but another part is reluctant. Another part wants to keep the superstitions alive. The butchers are part of that superstition, and a murder happens among them, and it brings all of these complications to the surface. So please, Butcher's Blessing, check it out. It's coming out October. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. Take care.
Hi everybody, my name is Valerie Pierce and I'm the Retail Marketing Director at Source Books. I'm so bummed I can't be with you guys in person, but I'm so thankful to Carol Fitzgerald and everyone at the Book Report Network who made this virtual event possible, so thank you so much. And without further ado, I'm going to jump into some of my favorite book club books. My first one is The Last Flight by Julie Clark. This is coming out in June in hardcover, and it recently received 2-star reviews, and People magazine also called it one of the top books to quarantine in with this summer. In the last flight, we meet Claire. She is the wife of a very wealthy politician. Their life seems perfect on the outside, but unfortunately her husband has become incredibly abusive, and that abuse is starting to escalate. Claire decides that she absolutely has to try to escape him, so she squirrels away money, she gets a new passport, a new identity, and she's thrilled when he decides to send her to Detroit on a trip by herself to campaign for him. So she sends all of that, everything she has, to this hotel in Detroit. She wakes up the morning of the trip, nervous, excited, ready to go, only to discover that her husband has decided to take that trip and that he is sending her to Puerto Rico instead. This is devastating. He's going to discover everything that she was trying to do once he gets to the hotel and gets that package. So Claire is terrified. She has to go to the airport anyway for the Puerto Rico trip. She gets through security, sits down at the bar to get a glass of wine, because what else are you going to do in a situation like that? And that's when she meets Eva, another woman who's also got some desperate circumstances. So after talking for a bit, they decide, what if we just switch flights? No one will know, and we can just disappear once we get to our new destinations. So Claire takes Eva's flight to San Francisco, lands in San Francisco, only to discover that her original flight to Puerto Rico, that Eva may or may not be on, has crashed into the ocean. And that since Claire is the wife of a wealthy politician, her image has been plastered all over the media. At this point, Claire has no option but to try to take on Eva's life and identity and to hide. But Eva also had demons that she was running from. What I love about this book is that you don't have two unreliable female narrators. What you have are two very strong women who have been backed into corners because of some decisions that they've made, and they're desperately trying to fight their way out. So it's a different take on the domestic thriller, and I think that it is going to be the thriller of the summer. So please make sure to download this on Edelweiss or NetGalley. My next book is for people who like things that are a little bit lighter. Miss Cecily's Recipes for Exceptional Ladies is perfect for fans of Fried Green Tomatoes and Bridget Jones' Diary. So in this story, our main character, Kate Parker, is in her 40s. She has recently broken up with her boyfriend. She's had to move back home with her mother, and she's in a job she's been in since college that she doesn't really love. So she decides to switch things up, and she volunteers at an elderly folks' home in London. And that's when she meets Cecily. Miss Cecily Finn is sassy. She has seen some things in her life, and she has no patience for Kate's love life, her work life, any of it. So what she does is she introduces Kate to this amazing cookbook that has interesting recipes like Dinner for a Charming Stranger, How to Recover from a Hangover. And as Kate begins to experiment with these recipes, she starts to figure out who she is. She gets to build this beautiful friendship with Miss Cecily Finn. And she teaches all of us that it doesn't matter how old you are, coming of age can happen at any point in your life. This is Miss Cecily's Recipes, and it is coming out in July in trade paper. Next on our list is The Paris Children. This is perfect for fans of World War II fiction. It is based on Madeleine Levy, who is a real person. I had never heard of her before, and I think that is a tragedy that we don't know who this woman is. But hopefully you will read this and you will learn all about her. So Madeleine was part of a very wealthy, very well-known family in Paris, a Jewish family. And she was a social worker. So she worked with all of these Jewish refugee children that were coming in from Germany and other parts of Europe, coming into France, fleeing what was happening with the Third Reich there. And as time goes on, she realizes that the Nazis are going to soon invade Paris. And at this point, she has the opportunity to escape Paris and move to the US where she'll be safe. But she will not abandon these children. So instead, even though she is well known and her family is well known, she dons several aliases and disguises and manages to save hundreds of Jewish children. So this is The Paris Children. It is coming out in September, and I really hope you check this one out. My next book is Sanctuary. This is a thriller mystery for people who love things that are a little bit unique and different. I would say it's like if you threw The Crucible, The Craft, Little Fires Everywhere, and Big Little Lies into a bucket and mixed them all up, this would be their love child. So Sanctuary takes place in a world where there are witches. They can't fly on broomsticks, but they can absolutely do things to help you. They can help you heal. They can help you recover from addictions. They can give you inspiration to get that promotion you've always wanted. And in the town of Sanctuary on the northeast coast, we get to meet Sarah, who is the town's witch. She's lived there her entire life. She's beloved, allegedly, by the town. She's best friends with a woman named Claire. They've known each other since they were children. Their children have grown up together. Sarah's daughter, Harper, is dating Claire's son. And everything just seems perfect until tragedy strikes. There's a high school party, and Claire's son falls from a balcony and passes away. And it seems just like a horrible accident until another student accuses Sarah's daughter of using witchcraft to kill Claire's son. Now, neither woman believes that this is true, but Claire is desperate. She's grieving and she wants her son back. And she believes that Sarah can give that to her, that Sarah can use witchcraft to bring her son back. So Claire will go to any ends possible. She will stir the pot in that little town. She will turn everyone against Sarah and her daughter if it means that Sarah will agree to use the power that she has to bring back her son. So what you have at the heart of the story is this incredible mystery to figure out what happened that night, what actually happened. And then you have this incredible story of prejudice happening in this small town. This is Sanctuary, and it's coming out in September. My next one I am so excited about. It's Before She Was Helen by Carolyn B. Cooney. Many of you, maybe like me, you may have grown up with Carolyn B. Cooney's books, like The Face on the Milk Carton. So when we have the opportunity at Source Books to acquire her new books that are for adults, obviously we all said yes. We're so excited about her. In her new book, Before She Was Helen, we are introduced to Clemmy. She is in her late 80s. She's a part-time substitute teacher. She plays Pinackledy. She's your regular retirement community kind of legend, just a really lovely person. But what people don't know about Clemmy is that she has a past, and that maybe in the 1950s, maybe she was involved with a murder. And Clemmy has been able to keep all of that a secret for years and years and years. She's been able to run from it. But her neighbor just disappeared. And now the cops are coming around and they're starting to ask questions and they're starting to dig into her past. So what you've got is this little old lady who is anything but helpless in this retirement community, surrounded by other people who may or may not be lying about who they were. This is Before She Was Helen. It's coming out in hardcover in September. And then my last book, I'm really sad to say I don't have an ARC of it yet. The ARCs will be in, I think, in about 2 weeks. But it is called The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. Hopefully you know that name. Stu is the author of the wonderful 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which came out about 2 years ago. So in The Devil in the Dark Water, this book is kind of an interesting mashup. You've got a little bit of Sherlock Holmes, you got a little Stephen King, and then you're going to throw in some Pirates of the Caribbean. This book takes place in the 1600s and focuses on a ship that is sailing to Amsterdam. One of our main characters is named Samuel, and he's kind of your Sherlock character. He's this beloved guy in Europe who helps solve crimes for the aristocracy. But he's been accused of a crime we as the reader are not privy to, and he's been thrown into the prisoner's hold. So he can't help anyone as a mystery starts to unravel on the ship. As they set sail, a demonic symbol is suddenly placed on one of the sails. Livestock is killed. People are marked for death. And Samuel's favorite person, Aaron Hayes, who is kind of your Watson's character, has to solve this. But Aaron has a lot of memories that he hasn't been able to unlock. And in fact, that symbol on the sail, that demonic symbol, it's very, very familiar to him. In fact, it was etched into his own skin when he was a young boy. And he has no memory of why it's there or who did it. So as this mystery begins to unfold on this ship, we get to experience all of these different characters, the sailors, the aristocracy, the soldiers, and every single person is a suspect. So those are my books. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you want to reach me, if you have any questions, my email is valerie.pierce@sourcebooks.com. You can also check out all of our books on our website, and I hope to hear from you and hear what you think of our books. Thank you so much. Bye.
Hi, I'm Erin Kotke with Consortium Book Sales and Distribution, and here are 6 of our wonderful independent publishers sharing their book club titles.
I'm Eleanor Kent from publisher Under the Stories. I am talking to you from my chilly kitchen. I have been here for many weeks, but I'm imagining myself partying on a tiny Greek island with the help of What You Could Have Won by Rachel Genn. Taking in the hot sandy camping grounds of Antiparos, a far-out rehab clinic in Paris, and a music festival in the desert, What You Could Have Won is a high-energy account of the rise of a super-talented woman, her concurrent fall into addiction, and her eventual escape. Rockstar anti-heroine Astrid is helped into that hole by her boyfriend Henry, a cynical and manipulative failed psychiatrist who exploits her for his own gains. Rachel wrote this book to untangle what triggers this story, one we've seen play out many, many times, by the women whose talents have been swallowed up by the men around them. Amy Winehouse's heartbreaking devotion to a toxic relationship was visible from the stage, and yet, from Amy Winehouse to Whitney Houston, these women aren't just people who things happen to. What You Could Have Won is a book about the choices that are and are not ours to make, and the possibility of reclaiming power that has been given or stolen away.
Hi everyone, I'm Lynn York from Blair. We have a terrific debut novel this season, The Baddest Girl on the Planet by Heather Fries. This book chronicles the adventures of Evie Austin, Hatteras native, and the baddest girl on the planet. Now, Evie hasn't been to jail or anything, but somehow over the years she's gotten the idea that she's been knocked off the good girl list. There have been some messy romances and some ill-advised career decisions, and then there is her obsession with the boxer Mike Tyson. Evie reminds us a lot of the heroine Bridget Jones. And like Bridget Jones, over the course of this novel, she decides that maybe a trip to Vegas and a new lover are not going to do the trick. This novel is whip smart. It's really funny. And let's face it, these days, who couldn't use a little trip to the Outer Banks of North Carolina?
Hi, I'm Marit Swanson from Coffee House Press, and this is Ellen Cooney's new book, One Night, Two Souls Went Walking. It's a beautifully written story told by a hospital chaplain wrestling with faith and duty during an eventful overnight shift. Cooney profiles the chaplain's sick and dying patients with warm, humane detail and seamlessly combines romance, philosophical ideas about the soul, and a very sweet dog angle. True to life, there's pain and heartbreak here, but also humor and resilience. And Cooney's writing shines with a rare, dignified, emotional poignancy rather than sentimentality. Blurbers are comparing the feel of this book to Mary Oliver and Marilyn Robinson. Ellen has written 9 other books, including The Mountaintop School for Dogs and Other Stories. The New York Times called her a remarkably talented author. O Magazine said she's a writer with style and heart. And the Washington Post praised her talent for creating fine, quirky characters. Ellen wrote this book years ago, wanting to honor women's working lives, the often invisible labor of hospital chaplains, and the experiences of the sick and overlooked. But with articles being written recently about the important role of hospital chaplains during the COVID crisis, this book feels like it has special significance for our current moment. There will be a reader's discussion guide included in the book.
I'm Philip Gwynne-Jones, the very happy editor who stumbled across a novel about the life of George Eliot that is good enough to please fans of George Eliot and get them talking about her being perhaps the wisest woman who ever wrote novels in English, while all the same having some pretty serious blind spots. All of us at Scribe were just delighted when it received a rapturous reception from critics and readers here in Britain, and we can't wait to see how it's greeted there in America. Year in, year out, readers of all ages discover the joys of George Eliot for the first time, or rediscover them. They walk into Middlemarch, or meet Daniel Deronda, or stumble upon the mill on the Floss, and in a trice, they're inside the mind of one of the greatest observers of human hopes and habits, delusions and determinations ever. And it's always a scintillating place to be. All those readers fall in love with George Eliot. 150 years on, she still enchants us with her intelligence, her humanity, her style. And in Cathy O'Shaughnessy's beautifully imagined novel of her life, we see all the varied ways she was loved in her own time, but also how her life was all so much more intense and complicated and notorious and played out in public than perhaps is remembered now when we read Middlemarch quietly and admire her timeless Olympian wisdom. She was, in fact, very much of her time, at the heart of it, at the heart of British society. Cathy depicts Eliot's stormy, disruptive passage through Victorian values in the most vivid, colourful, moving way. This is a woman who was truly radical, truly path-breaking, and truly unsettling to the society around her, whose strengths and weaknesses she recorded with such humane precision. And this is a great novel, worthy of her. In the words of the Times reviewer, simply a superb portrait of an extraordinary woman.
Hi, I'm Amy Winchester from Unbound, and I have a great debut novel from LA-based author and artist Sophie Kipner. Big-hearted, smart and witty, The Optimist is next-generational romantic comedy writing at its very best. Somewhere between Bridget Jones and Fleabag lies Tabitha Gray, a true hero for anyone who's ever dared greatly in the arena of love and dating. No matter the failure or embarrassment that she meets with, nothing can dent her fierce belief that true and lasting love is just around the corner. Since we published in the UK to great reviews in the Daily Mail, The Sun, The Pool, Sophie's career as an artist has really taken off, and she recently exhibited her brilliant Don't Look Down series at LA's Hotel Figueroa. And in fact, you can see a lovely print of Frida Kahlo by her on the wall behind me here. Sophie's an absolute dream to work with. She's incredibly well connected in the US. Over 70% of our pledges for The Optimist came from the United States, so we know there's a big audience out there who can't wait to meet Tabitha and join in the trials and tribulations in her search for a great romance.
I'm Christine Swerdowski from World Editions, here to talk about The High-Rise Diver by Julia Manlucadu. The High-Rise Diver is a chilling and scarily plausible dystopia. There's been a certain interest in dystopian novels lately, especially those written by women for women, and this novel fits right in. By using elements from readers' favorites such as Handmaid's Tale, 1984, and Hunger Games, the story is highly original. The plot centers on the psychological effects of secret surveillance and the pressure to perform on two female characters. Riva is a disaffected high-rise diver, a top athlete and media star who has broken her contract. He told me as a psychologist hired to spy on her and reintegrate her into society. The two never meet, but Riva's failure to achieve becomes Hitomi's downfall as she spirals out of control. The author has worked in TV prior to writing, and the novel stuns in its visual clarity. The dystopian details and images are so alive, you will feel like watching a movie set in a glittering, ice-cold world, which seems to describe our very near future.
Hi everyone, I'm Amelia Wood from William Morrow, a division of HarperCollins, and I'm here to talk to you about some of our big fall books. The first one is When We Were Young and Brave by Hazel Gaynor. Hazel is a New York Times best-selling author. This is her new historical novel. Some of you may be familiar with her previous novels like The Girl Who Came Home, The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter, Meet Me in Monaco, but this is new. It's a new setting for Hazel and it is fabulous, and I think her best book yet. This is set during World War II, but it's a different World War II perspective. It's set in China at the beginning of the war, and it takes place at the start at a missionary school for children of American and English missionaries, and it's told from the point of view of some of the children and also some of the teachers at the school. And everything's fine, everything's great until the Japanese invade China and everything changes. And these children and their teachers are caught up in the tide of war. They end up being transported to an internment camp, and they have to really learn to survive and learn to band together. The author did a ton of research for this. It's a really fascinating story. Like I said, it's World War II, but it's a different perspective. So if you are a historical fiction fan, do not miss this. Going on sale in October. The next one is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This is a very sort of timely, sexy new thriller set in Brooklyn, New York. It's Rear Window meets Get Out, if that entices you. This is basically about a woman who lives in Brooklyn, and her neighborhood is slowly, actually not even slowly, quickly being gentrified and being taken over. More and more, all of her old neighbors are moving out, all these for sale signs are going up, there's like new corporations coming in, buying up all the land, developing. And over the course of the book, she starts to realize that maybe people aren't just moving on their own. Maybe there's something sinister at work here. Maybe there's something going on. And it sort of delves into sort of like paranoia, and she starts trying to figure out, like, is she being gaslighted? Is this real? Maybe these people just moved. I don't know. But it's fascinating. It's a really fun, very fun, quick read. Alyssa Cole is already an established author, but this is a new type of story for her. Like I said, twisty psychological thriller, sort of Hitchcockian, so check it out. Also going on sale in the fall. Next up, major book for us, Hench. This is a superhero story, but it's not told from the point of view of the superheroes. It is told from the point of view of the henchmen. Every good superhero needs a henchman or a hench lady, or hench for short. So this is about a young woman named Anna who is the aforementioned hench. Her job is to basically be sort of an assistant, but she does data entry, she does sort of whatever needs to be done for the superheroes, or sorry, actually the supervillains, I should say, of the world. So she really is sort of in a very strange position. And after she gets fired, she ends up in an even stranger position. This is a really fascinating read. It's really different. If you like the show The Boys, this would be a really great one for you. Like I said, it's very, it's a different type of story. It's told from the point of view of this sort of scrappy underdog character, but it's very character driven. And it's really imaginative and really different. And it's not something that I have ever read before. And I would highly recommend it. If you're looking for something different, if you like stuff that's sort of not sci-fi, but sort of just really sort of thinking about something different, highly recommend Hench. Next up, The Talented Miss Farwell. This is sort of like Catch Me If You Can meets The Talented Mr. Ripley. It tells a story of a woman who leads a very sort of basic, sort of quiet life in the Midwest, but she has a secret life, a secret identity. She basically is embezzling money from her town to fund her secret life as a high-stakes art dealer and art collector. Very crazy, very weird, but that's what she's doing, and no one knows about this until, of course, secrets start to come out, as secrets always do. This character is so good. I'm going to read you a quote from this because I think it really tells the story. It says, Becky Farwell, Miss Farwell, is one of the most wickedly compelling characters I've read in ages. A Machiavellian marvel, a modern Becky Sharp, a character to root for despite your better judgment. So, I think it's a good example. It tells a lot. This is such a fun read. Highly recommend it if you like a twisty page turner. Next, The Exiles by Christina Baker Klein. You may have heard of her. She wrote The Orphan Train, a #1 bestseller. She is back. The Exiles is a huge book for fall. Cover is beautiful. This is historical fiction, but it's so much more than that. It is set in the 19th century, and it tells the story of 3 women. 2 of them are English convicts who are sent to Australia to start a new life, maybe, but they're convicts. And the 3rd woman is a young girl. She's from an Aboriginal family in Australia, and she's adopted by the English governor's family. And slowly the stories become intertwined. It's fascinating. It's something that you've never read before. Christina Baker Klein is just at the top of her game. Such an amazing writer. If you loved Orphan Train, this is for you. You have to read this. Highly recommended. And last but not least, The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlyle. This is like, this is a psychological thriller, but it's so much more than that. It's very sexy. The settings are fascinating. It tells the story of 2 beautiful, elegant, rich, identical twin sisters, but there's a dark side to their story. They end up sailing across the Indian Ocean together. I told you they were rich. On their family's yacht, just the 2 of them, and one of them goes overboard. And the other one, when she finally makes it to land, is mistaken for the twin that is now missing. And she basically takes over her life, including taking over the lost twin's husband. It gets very twisty, like I said, very sexy, kind of dark, really fascinating. The story just, I mean, it keeps pulling you in. Like, you're gonna have to read the ending twice because you're not even gonna believe it. It's fabulous. If you like psychological thrillers, this is for you. Check it out, The Girl in the Mirror. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and happy reading.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. I'm the editorial lead for the Book Club Favorites program here at Simon & Schuster, and I am pleased to introduce our titles for this year's Book Club Speed Dating. We are so excited for you to read these. We can't wait to hear your feedback. And now I will throw it to my colleagues who will present each book to you.
Hi, my name is Dawn Davis, and I'm with 37 Inc. and Simon & Schuster. And boy, do I envy you, because you get to read 1 Year of Ugly by Caroline Mackenzie for the first time. And it's the perfect book for these strange times we find ourselves in. It'll make you laugh, and it'll make you appreciate your family, even if you're living in close quarters with them. So here's the story. Yola and her extended clan live in a country in South America where inflation is through the roof, leadership is corrupt, and the middle class has evaporated into thin air. So what's a family to do? Well, Yola and her family take a boat to a small Caribbean island where their Aunt Celia has secured papers that will allow them to work. Mom's a beautician, Yola will get some translating work, and the twins will get to go to school. It all seems like a plan until they find out that Aunt Celia, who's crazy, and we all have a crazy aunt in our family, got the papers from a mobster named Ugly. And Ugly's quid pro quo is that the family will get the papers, but they have to house and feed other people he smuggled into the country. And oh, by the way, they also have to run a brothel. To make sure the family doesn't run away or try to flee, he's put his distractingly gorgeous right-hand man, Roman, in place to watch over them. But Roman only has eyes for Yola, which is okay because Yola seems to only have eyes for him, even though she knows this attraction is crazy, if not dangerous. She tries to avoid it, but she thinks it just may be the antidote she needs for this crazy situation in which she finds herself in. Funny, sweet, romantic, 1 Year of Ugly is the perfect book for these times. The pages will fly by and you'll lose yourself, and you'll also learn about another country. Of all of the devices that Mackenzie could have used to write about this situation, what do we do when we find ourselves neighbors who are fleeing difficult situations? I'm so glad she chose humor, because I don't know about you, but I could use a good laugh right now, over and over again. It's no wonder that Netflix has already snatched up these rights. You'll be so happy when we finally get to see it made on film. And as for comps, it reminds me of Crazy Rich Asians, because it's funny, it's romantic, and it gives you a peek into another culture. Thanks for reading. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Hi, I'm Lauren Ween, the editorial director of Avid Reader Press, and I am so happy to talk to you today about a debut memoir called Group: How One Therapist and a Circle of Strangers Saved My Life by Christy Tate. When the book opens, we have kind of a classic overachiever, Christy, who everything's going really well on paper, but honestly, she's also feeling suicidal. She realizes that if she can't change something quickly, things are not going to end well. She meets a therapist named Dr. Rosen, who's this incredibly quirky, like over-the-top guy, who says, just come to group therapy and everything will change. And she says, I am beyond a cure. And he says, you don't need a cure. You need a witness. And with that, we are given ringside seats to a terrifying, entertaining, and ultimately transformative process, one that involves screaming fights among the group members, questionable directives from Dr. Rosen, and lots of really cringeworthy sex with unworthy partners. But over time, her life begins to shift and change, and she learns how to connect with her group members, her romantic partners, and also herself. And her voice. Christy is just someone you want to spend time with. She's self-deprecating, self-aware, super smart, really funny, and also determined and hopeful. Think Glennon Doyle or Jenny Lawson. We've received incredible early praise from people like Lori Gottlieb, author of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, Lisa Taddeo, author of Three Women, who called it one of the most startlingly hopeful books she'd ever read. And then there's Sarah Hepola, author of Blackout, who read it and loved it and proclaimed, damn, I want to join a group now too. And you know, the people, you guys out there, whether or not you are in group therapy or will ever venture into it, you're probably already in a book group. And whether it meets on Zoom or in real life, by the time this book comes out in October, Christy Tate's memoir will have everybody in your group talking, digging, discussing, and laughing late into the night. Thanks so much.
Hi, my name is Karina Gitterman, and I'm an editor at Simon & Schuster, and I'm so excited to be telling you about Florence Adler Swims Forever by Rachel Beanland. This is my favorite type of novel. It's a big-hearted family saga with characters that you'll know almost as well as you know your own relatives by the end of the novel, and it transports you to a slice of American history that I at least knew little about, in this case, the Jewish community of Atlantic City in the 1930s. And it's all based on Rachel Beanland's own family history. She always grew up hearing the story of her grandmother in the book named Gussie, who one summer as a child in Atlantic City witnessed the tragic drowning of her beloved Aunt Florence. That summer, Gussie was staying with her grandparents, as her mother, Fanny, was on bed rest with a very dangerous pregnancy in the hospital. So Gussie's grandmother decides that it would be best if they all keep the truth about Florence's death from Fanny, at least until her baby is born safely. So the novel takes place over the course of a single summer and is told from the point of view of 7 family members as they spin this sort of elaborate web of lies in order to protect Fanny from the truth. But of course, other family secrets come out as they do so. And what's so interesting is that Rachel was always told this story as an example of people doing a hard thing but also the right thing to protect someone they love. But in the book, it's not so black and white, and it really gets to the question of whether it's okay to keep the truth from someone in order to protect them. So needless to say, it is perfect for book club discussions. And I'll just end by saying that while this novel opens with a tragedy, it's really a heartwarming story about finding hope after heartbreak, and it ends with one of the best love stories that I've ever read. So it's a transporting, uplifting novel, and I hope you all love it as much as I do.
Hi, I'm Mary Sue Rucci from Simon & Schuster, and I'm excited to tell you about White Ivy by Susie Yang. This riveting debut novel is for fans of Celeste Ng and Curtis Sittenfeld. Call it suburban gothic. Early readers are raving. On its face, White Ivy is the story of a Chinese immigrant named Ivy Lin who yearns for the American dream. She grows up in the suburbs, falls for the all-American boy, and develops a taste for wealth. But the first line of this book tells you to expect something different. Ivy Lin was a thief and a liar, but you'd never know it to look at her. A love story, a coming-of-age novel, a story of ambition and striving, White Ivy follows the unforgettable character Ivy Lin from youth into adulthood, when a crush becomes an obsession, and she realizes all her careful calculations won't erase her past. White Ivy is perfect for book clubs because of its electrifying main character, its stunning ending, and the many hot-button issues it addresses. Bestselling novelist Kevin Wilson says, this novel upends our ideas of class, race, family, and identity. Bestselling author Joshua Ferris says, White Ivy is magic. Author Lucy Tan says, Ivy Lin eviscerates the model minority stereotype with a smile on her lips and a boot on your neck. Cancel your weekend plans because you won't be able to take your eyes off of Ivy Lin. I hope you agree. Thanks for reading.
Hi, I'm Kathy Belden. I'm an editor at Scribner. Big Sun is Pete Beatty's fictional legend and the star of his debut novel. Cuyahoga is set in 1830s Ohio, when Ohio was the West. Big cleared the land, he wrestled the trees, and he tamed the waters of the Great Lake Erie. He bargained with God and the devil, and he was loved and lauded for it. In this tall tale about the founding of Cleveland, big is its beating heart. Cuyahoga is a wild ride. It starts and ends with fire. In between, there are night pigs, barrels of whiskey, bridges built and blown up. There's pursuit of love and rejection, fame and jealousy, brothers working for and against each other. In other words, it shimmers with humanity. Narrated by Big's younger brother in a period vernacular, the book's every sentence is an event. The surface of the novel is spectacular and funny, but it's not all razzle-dazzle. It runs deep and has emotional resonance. It's full of truths that are highly relatable to the present, exploring fragile masculinity, infighting, and American myth-making. Cuyahoga is decidedly a rare bird, the kind of literary spectacle an editor only happens upon a few times in a career. In dark times, great art can be a balm. I think Cuyahoga is just the tonic we need. Thank you.
Hi, book people. My name is Ariel from Atria Books, and I'm so excited to be talking to you about Frederick Bachman's newest novel. You might know him from the #1 New York Times bestselling A Man Called Uwe, or maybe from the very beloved My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, or from Beartown, which is set to become a series from HBO Sweden. But what I'm here to tell you about is Anxious People, which is coming in September of this year. It's about a failed bank robbery and a subsequent hostage drama. And more than that, it's about hardworking people, families, and growing up, and just trying to cope with being an adult and getting through the day, which, as Frederick says, is just the best you can do because there's always one tomorrow. So if you're feeling a little bit like a hostage in your own house right now, because aren't we all, this will be a welcome, heartwarming, and uplifting escape. We've already heard from so many booksellers and early readers across the country that they love this book so much and they can't wait to talk to other people about it because there are so many topics to really dive into. Relationships between parents and children, staying in love, falling in love, getting older, and there are so many relatable and yet fallible characters, so they really just feel so human. I will say nothing more, but there are some shockers along the way, and I just want you to know that whether it becomes a new favorite Bachman book or just a story that really captures your heart, this very incredibly special novel should be on your TBR list, and you should be talking to people about it come September. Can't wait to hear what you think about it. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, I hope this video finds you safe and well. I'm Erin Lovett. I am Vice President and Publicity Director at W.W. Norton, and I'm here to talk to you about 3 novels that we are or have recently published at W.W. Norton. The first novel is Lydia Millet's A Children's Bible. She is someone who has been awarded many different acknowledgements from places like the Pulitzer Committee, which listed her as a finalist. She was longlisted and shortlisted with the National Book Awards, with the National Book Critics Circle Awards. She's been praised by Karen Russell, by Tony Awful. Her recent novel, again, Children's Bible, has been praised by the Washington Post, the New York Times. It's an incredibly prescient book that is about 12 incredibly mature children who are sent away to a mansion with their parents. And while there, they feel increasingly neglected by the parents who are indulging in alcohol and other things, and they decide to run away. But when they run away, they encounter extreme chaos. And I think during these times when we're all feeling like the locusts may descend on us at any moment, this is a book that really resonates with us all feeling like we're in a state of upheaval. I really encourage you to read Lydia's book. She is a remarkable talent and someone we're very proud to publish. The next book is by Sahar Mustafa. It's called The Beauty of Your Face. It's a novel that has been inspired by Sahar's own experience. She's a teacher. She's Palestinian American. The main character, Afaf, is both of those things. You meet her when she's young, and she is the daughter of immigrants. She is confronted with extreme bigotry where she's growing up and really feels that profoundly. She also is traumatized as a young girl because she loses her sister who goes missing, and that's not resolved until the end of the novel. We then meet her when she is older. She's the principal at a Muslim school for girls in Chicago. And she's confronted one day while at school by an alt-right shooter who has been fueled by hate that he's found online and decides that he's gonna gun down people at the school. It's a book that really forces us to confront our differences and also evaluate the things that connect us all. Sahar is a brilliant talent, and her book has been praised from so many places and was named a best of from Bustle, Marie Claire, Lit Hub. I highly encourage you to pick it up. It's a book that really stimulates a lot of discussion for book clubs. And finally, I wanted to mention Anne Enright. She is the novelist who has written the recent book Actress. She won a Booker for her book The Gathering. She was the laureate for Irish fiction in 2015. Her new novel, Actress, is about Catherine Odell and her daughter Nora. Catherine is an aging theater star who has always been larger than life, and her entire life has been a performance. And finally, now that she's aging, her daughter Nora has the opportunity to care for her and really get to know her. And in getting to know her, many secrets are revealed that the two of them have been holding within themselves and holding back from each other. Ron Charles at the Washington Post has said of Anne Enright that she will ruin you for anyone else if you read her, because she is that brilliant. She has a caustic wit. She's Irish and is an amazing storyteller. So I encourage you to pick up this book for your book club. Actress is a book that will not disappoint. So thank you. Again, the books that we are encouraging you to read are Children's Bible, Lydia Millette, and Enright's Actress, and Sahar Mustafa's The Beauty of Your Face. Thank you. Be well. Stay safe.
Hi everyone, my name is Cordelia Calvert. I work at Live Right Publishing and imprint of W.W. Norton, and I'm so excited we're still able to connect virtually as we do in person every year at Book Expo. I'm going to talk about 3 books today, and I'm just going to go in order of pub date. So I'm going to start with Patsy, out in paperback on May 26th by Nicole Dennis Benn. I'm sure I've talked to you guys about Nicole Dennis Benn before, probably for her first book, Here Comes the Sun, which was a huge sensation when it published in 2016. And this is her second book, which published last year in hardcover to great acclaim, incredible reviews, and most notably was chosen as a Read with Jenna book club pick. So if it's good enough for Read with Jenna, I hope it's good enough for you guys and your book club members. But it's a really incredible story about a woman who leaves Jamaica to come to America in search of a better life, but also in search of being able to be reunited with her childhood love and oldest friend, Cecily, who lives here in America, and to be able to live out their love openly and freely in the way that they can't back in Jamaica. When she arrives in America, it is not at all what she expected. As an undocumented immigrant, she's faced with a whole host of challenges, not just how to survive or how to make it work. She realizes how much she misses her daughter back at home. And she also realizes she's struggling with a lot of mental health issues that in her immigrant community, she's not fully able to discuss or address. Nicole has always talked about these very difficult stories through the lens of incredibly memorable and vivid characters. I know it's very important to her that she connect with readers of the book, and I know she'd love to do virtual book club events and is very fluent in Skype and Zoom and Instagram Live and whatever format you might want to use these days. And you can reach out to me to arrange that at ccalvert@wwnorton.com. The second book I'm going to talk about is a real favorite of mine. It's called The Taste of Sugar by Maricel Vera. And this should be a newbie for you guys. There may be some of you who know her from her first book, If I Bring You Roses, which we did not publish. But this is incredible historical fiction in the traditional sense, really rich, really sweeping intergenerational family saga set in Puerto Rico on the eve of the Spanish-American War. So this is about the 1890s, turn of the 20th century that we're talking about here. And Maricel Vera, her family is actually from this region in Puerto Rico that she's bringing to light and talking about so vividly. And much like, it reminds me a little bit of Minjin Lee's Pachinko in that she exposes this time of history that I knew next to nothing about and does it so beautifully and through this one family of coffee farmers who are just desperately trying to hold on to their land through the Spanish-American War, through the devastation of a hurricane that just completely wipes out the farms in Puerto Rico. She brings this period of history so vividly to life. The book is clearly incredibly researched, and she draws on a lot of archival material to bring this work of fiction onto the pages. And she also is very interested in doing book club events, and I could set that up for you as well. And that book publishes on June 16th. It's already hitting a bunch of summer reading roundups in O Magazine and Entertainment Weekly, so keep an eye out. The last one I'm going to talk about, I unfortunately do not have a handy book to share because it comes out in October. That is the paperback for a book we published a little while ago called Ordinary People by Diana Evans. When it was published, it was a New Yorker Best Book of the Year. It was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. It was a huge sensation both in the UK, where she's based, and over here. And we're bringing it out in paperback. And this is really for those of you who are binging Sally Rooney's Normal People right now. It's for readers who love incredibly finely wrought domestic fiction. It's about two couples in London who are navigating their marriages and feel a little suffocated, whether it's at work or in childcare or just being in the confines of a home with the person they've been married to for many years. I think that's something we can probably all relate to right now. But just a really incredible work of fiction that touches on marriage and fidelity and race, all set in London. So I hope you get the chance to check these out. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Melissa Nicholas from Hachette Book Group, and I'll be joined by two of my most treasured Hachette colleagues, Elizabeth Venneri and Allison Powers, to share 6 titles perfect for book club discussions. We've got novels and nonfiction, so on to the books.
Hello, my name is Allison Powers, and I'm here to talk about Aren't You Forgetting Someone? Essays from My Midlife Revenge by Carrie Lizer. You may know Lizer as the creator of the award-winning show, The New Adventures of Old Christine, which was based on her life as a single working mom. This debut essay collection, which published in April, focuses on her challenges of being an empty nester, her struggle to find her identity outside of motherhood, and all of the emotional recalibrating one has to do when your children leave for college. One of my favorite scenes in the book details a 5-hour, completely unappreciated journey to pick up her daughter at ALX for holiday break, complete with a hilarious running inner monologue. An eternal optimist, Carrie truly finds the humor in almost all situations. Fans of brutally honest, self-deprecating, Efron-esque humor will find so much to love here.
No Man's Land by Wendy Moore. This is an exceptional work of narrative nonfiction for fans of Hidden Figures and Code Girls. The book was released in April, which means you don't have to wait to get your hands on it. It's the true story of 2 pioneering suffragette doctors who transformed modern medicine. They raised standards for patient care and shattered social expectations for women in World War I era London. A month after war broke out in 1914, doctors Flora Murray and Louisa Garrett Anderson set out for Paris, where they opened a hospital and a luxury hotel and treated hundreds of casualties plucked from France's battlefields. Although prior to the war, female doctors were restricted to treating women and children, Flora and Louisa's work was so successful that the British Army asked them to set up a hospital in the heart of London. Nicknamed the Suffragettes Hospital, Endell Street soon became known for its life-saving treatments and lively atmosphere. We are vividly transported to this turbulent moment when women were, for the first time, allowed to operate on men. Their fortitude and brilliance serve as powerful reminders of what women can achieve against all odds, and there's so much to discuss.
Next up is the indomitable Florence Finch, the untold story of a war widow turned resistance fighter and savior of American POWs by award-winning military historian Robert J. Mrazek. Florence Finch was a Filipino-American member of the World War II resistance against the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. After the Japanese conquest of the islands in December 1941, her job vanished and her husband died in battle shortly after. Seeking to avenge him, she suppressed her American heritage, secured a job at the Japanese-controlled Philippine Liquid Fuel Distributing Union, and worked closely with the Philippine underground to divert fuel supplies to the resistance and provided desperately needed supplies for hundreds of American POWs. In addition to detailing Florence's role in undermining the Japanese occupational forces, the book is also a compelling history of the loss and retaking of the Philippines during World War II. For nearly 50 years after the war, virtually no one outside of Florence's family knew that she was a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, a highly decorated Coast Guard veteran, and a former prisoner of war whose exploits had been buried in time. If you enjoy reading stories about women whose lives, often overlooked, intersect with sweeping historical events such as Code Girls and Hidden Figures, you will absolutely love the truly indomitable Florence Finch.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Venneri, and I'm a marketing manager at Hachette Book Group. For book clubs that love Circe and My Dear Hamilton, we have your next read. The Woman in Red is a debut novel by Diana Giovenzano that explores the life of feminist icon and revolutionary Anita Garibaldi. When Anita meets Giuseppe Garibaldi, the leader of the Brazilian resistance, she begins a passionate affair that sets her on the path to become a formidable revolutionary. Over the course of her short life, she fought for liberty and self-determination in Brazil, Uruguay, and Italy, and needed to defy the conventions of 19th century womanhood, often fighting on the battlefield alongside her husband, even when she was pregnant. Stories about brave women lost to history are finally having their moment. Adriana Trigiani calls the book a spectacular story, and we think book clubs will be swept away by this riveting historical drama. We're thrilled to be publishing the latest work by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Aya Akhtar. Homeland Elegies is a deeply personal work, blending fact and fiction to tell the story of a father, a son, and the country they call home. He examines our post-Trump world through the lens of his relationship with his father, or what we think might be their relationship. He shows how the wounds inflicted by 9/11 on our society continue to wreak havoc around the world. Akhtar tries to make sense of what is happening in our country, sparing no one, least of all himself, in the process. Readers will wonder, as they read the book, how much of the story is true, especially when they read early chapters about Akhtar's father's relationship with President Trump. And while we'll never know how much of reality is in the book, what's most important is how real it feels. Everyone from Salman Rushdie to Jennifer Egan to Sigrid Nunez is praising this book, and we think book clubs will be clamoring for this in the fall as our attention turns to the election.
The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. My second title also has a suffragette theme, which is making me feel very powerful at the moment. Alex's first novel, The 10,000 Doors of January, was published in 2019, and the trade paperback is just out. For those who attended this event live and in person last year, you'll remember how excited we were and still are about that debut. It is a delight to report that Alex has a new book being published this October, The Once and Future Witches. It's set in an alternate version of the late 1800s in New England, where three sisters use witchcraft to change the course of history in this powerful novel of magic and the suffragette movement. Theme: in 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be, in the wild dark days before the burnings began. But now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it at the ballot box. But when our sisters join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into a witches' movement. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. A powerful tale of defiance, sisterhood, and the right to vote is perfect for fans of Louisa Morgan and Paula Braxton, and for book clubs who just can't get enough of witch stories. Wrapping up with a hey to the Hachette Audio Division. They bring a variety of popular genres in audio form, which matches Hachette Book Group material with talented actors, composers, and producers, including lots of downloadable options from this award-winning team. This is a great moment in time to fall in love with audiobooks. Thank you.
Hi, Liz from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt here to tell you about a few of our upcoming titles that are perfect for book clubs. Up first is The House on Fripp Island by Rebecca Kaufman. This is a perfect, tense summer read. It's a story of Lisa and Poppy, who are childhood friends, who are now at very different stations in their lives. And Lisa and her husband and children invite Poppy and her family on an all-expenses paid vacation to Fripp Island, which is a resort off the coast of South Carolina. And the vacation starts off tense and gets worse from there, and someone isn't coming home. This is a novel of secrets and deception that will give you plenty to talk about in your club. Up next is Rockaway, Surfing Headlong into a New Life by Diane Cardwell. This is a memoir about finding yourself again later in life. Diane was living in New York City. She was a journalist, very busy. She was dealing with a recent divorce and just kind of feeling like she was at a crossroads in her life when she got an assignment to cover the surfing community in Rockaway in Queens. And when she gets there, she realizes that this is where she wants to be. So she leaves the city, she buys a tiny crumbling bungalow in Rockaway, and she learns how to surf. So this is a memoir of second chances, and you will have plenty to talk about. Next is The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. I literally read this book in 2 hours, both because it is very concise and compact, but also because it is impossible to put down. I just tore through it. It's the story of a patient in a mental hospital who has been locked in a room there since he was a kid, and everyone who tries to help him, nurses, psychiatrists, they all end up either going insane themselves or worse, they end up killing themselves. And our protagonist, who's a young, cocky psychiatrist, thinks that he's going to be the one to finally cure this patient. And as you can imagine, it all goes horribly wrong. We are calling this one The Silent Patient Meets Stephen King, and it has many twists and turns that will leave you very frightened and give you a lot to talk about. Next is Members Only by Samir Pandya. This is a novel about Raj Bhatt, who has never really been sure where he fits in. He emigrated to the US when he was a kid, and he hasn't known many Indian people in his community. He often finds that his white wife fits in better than he does, especially at their all-white country club. And it's at the country club that Raj ends up saying something racist to the African-American couple who are interviewing to join. And after that, his life sort of unravels. And this is a complicated story about being brown in America, that space between Black and white. It's a story about belonging, about not belonging, and it's just a really important story from an often overlooked perspective. Next is Sweet Sorrow by David Nichols. And you might remember David's name. He wrote the book One Day, which was made into a movie starring Anne Hathaway. And that's just what David is really, really good at. Those bittersweet, charming romantic comedies, and that is what Sweet Sorrow is. It's the story of Charlie Lewis, who is just about to get married, and he's looking back on his life and the summer of his first love and kind of how he found himself that summer. And it's really fun, easy, heartfelt, nostalgic read, and if you like Joe C. Silver or Jill Santopolo or Emma Straub, you will love this. And last is Wild Game, My Mother, Her Secret, and Me by Adrienne Broder. This is a memoir that reads like fiction. When Adrienne was 14 years old, her mother, Malabar, began an affair with her husband's closest friend, and she enlisted Adrienne to help her hide and cover up this affair. And the affair went on for years and years, and it proved to be just disastrous for everyone involved. And only now, years later, as Adrienne has children of her own, has she really been able to put the pieces back together, forgive her mother, and move on. This is a roller coaster of a memoir filled with deception and manipulation, but ultimately a testament to the power of forgiveness. And those are our titles for you. I hope you read them and enjoy them and have lots to talk about. Thanks so much for listening.
Hello, my name is John Mark Bowling. I work in the Grove Atlantic Publicity Department, and I'm here to tell you about a few books. One of the things I love about working at Grove is the opportunity to work with debut writers and to launch their books into the world for the first time. One such book is Crooked Hallelujah by Kelly Jo Ford. This is an Indies Introduced title and an Indie Next selection for July, and she's also won a Plimpton Prize. She is counted among an exciting new generation of Native American writers. Crooked Hallelujah is a novel told in linked stories that follows 4 generations of tough, complicated, loyal Cherokee women, ranging from the 1970s to roughly the present day, set in eastern Oklahoma and northeast Texas. On the older generation side, there's Granny and Lula. These are the strict matriarchs. They've raised their family in the rigid traditions of the conservative Holiness Church after Lula's husband has run out on her. Lula's daughter, Justine, finds this culture very constraining, becomes pregnant at age 15, and with her daughter Renee is forced to leave home for North Texas. These are strong, stubborn, fully rounded, and complex women characters. They butt up against one another, but are bound by love as they struggle to survive in this world of unreliable and hostile men. And there are storms. This is a big-hearted and ambitious novel touching on issues of history, religion, class, culture, and Crooked Hallelujah is one to look out for.
Hi, I'm Kate Estrella. I'm an associate publicist at Grove Atlantic, and I'm going to start off by telling you about the perfect end of summer read, Cree Lafavor's Private Means, out August 11th. Cree is the author of the memoir Lights On, Rats Out, as well as several cookbooks, but this is her first novel, and what a way to debut. It'll remind you of Nora Ephron and Meg Wolitzer. It's smart, it's sexy, and you'll keep turning the page just to find out what happens to this couple by the end of the summer. Alice, who's a quantum biologist, and her husband Peter is a psychiatrist, and they're starting their first summer as empty nesters, trying to figure out this next phase of their relationship. It gets off to a really bad start when their beloved dog Mabel runs away, and Alice starts obsessing and pouring all of her marital frustrations into finding this dog, while Peter develops an infatuation with one of his patients. This is all going down as they try to escape the New York City heat to their wealthier friends' places in the Hamptons, the Berkshires, and Cape Cod. By the time Labor Day rolls around, nothing will be the same for either of them. And the heat and the tension build to this really bang conclusion.
Next, I'd like to talk to you about a book from Helen MacDonald, the author of the award-winning and best-selling memoir H is for Hawk, which received massive media attention, and we expect the same from this one. This is Vesper Flights, a collection of essays, which is due on August 25th. Readers formed a personal bond with Helen with H is for Hawk, and this collection hits very similar beats. At once personal, political, intimate, and wide-ranging, Helen brings the same level of tension and rapt wonder to far-flung corners of the world that she does to the nature in her own backyard. These essays are centered around the human interaction with the natural world, including themes of captivity and freedom, migration, nationalism, the idea of home, surveillance and observation, and our relationships to our fellow humans as well as to the earth itself. More than a few of these pieces ended with me lowering the book into my lap, staring straight ahead, completely lost in thought. I love this line from the Publisher's Weekly Review, which is especially poignant for those of us frustrated by isolation. It says, "The message throughout is clear. The world that humans enjoy today may not be around tomorrow, so it should not be taken for granted. This will inspire readers to get outside."
The next book I'm excited to talk to you about is the follow-up to The Forgers. This is Bradford Morrow's The Forger's Daughter, out September 8th. We pick up with reformed literary forger Will, who has been on the straight and narrow for 20 years. He hasn't forged a thing, and he's trying to enjoy a summer upstate with his wife and 2 daughters when his nemesis, Henry Slater, makes a rude intrusion and gives him a sinister mission. He wants Will to forge a perfect copy of the rarest book in American letters, a first edition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Tamerlane. He threatens Will's family and his reputation, so Will enlists the help of his daughter Nicole to hopefully produce what is a perfect simulacrum of this literary masterpiece.
I'd like to talk to you about Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. This is the highly anticipated follow-up to Murata's breakout global cult sensation Convenience Store Woman. Readers identified with Convenience Store Woman's offbeat outsider perspective, and that outsider experience is pushed even further with Earthlings, which tells the story of a young girl who believes she's an alien. Young Natsuki is an outcast at school and an afterthought at home. Her best friend is a plush toy hedgehog named Piyut, who tells her that he is from the planet Popinpobopia and has come to help her on a quest to save the world. Natsuki spends summers at her grandparents' ramshackle house in the mountains and forms a special bond with her cousin Yu, who confides that he is also an alien. Back in her city home, Natsuki is assaulted by a young teacher at her school. As she grows up in a hostile, violent world, she consoles herself with the memories of her time with Yu. Natsuki seems forced to fit into a society she deems a baby factory, and she wants no part of it. But even as a married woman, she wants something more from the world than the normal people around her are willing to give her. And I won't say anything more about this book, but the final 30 pages are absolutely unlike anything I've ever read, completely unforgettable, and readers will definitely be talking about this one. It's a special little book.
The last book I'm going to tell you about is gorgeous historical fiction for fans of Anthony Doerr's All the Light We Cannot See. This is Carol Winley's Midnight Train to Prague, and it's out November 10th. And it begins with a fateful train ride in 1927. Natalia Faber is on the way from Berlin to Prague with her mother when their train stalls in Switzerland. And in the space that the train isn't moving, 2 life-altering events happen for Natalia. First, she finds out the truth about her father, who she always thought had died while she was an infant. And secondly, she meets this remarkable woman named Dr. Magdalena Schaefer, who will kind of circle back into her future in an unexpected way. And she arrives at the spa in Hungary completely disoriented by these events and eventually meets her husband there. So this has been a very fateful train ride. Years later, when Germany invades Russia, she's waiting for her husband to return from the Eastern Front. So she goes to Prague to wait for him and opens up a tarot fortune-telling shop, and there she meets the daughter of Dr. Magdalena, Anna Schaefer, and the two develop a friendship that lasts even as Natalia is dragged off to a concentration camp and accused of being a spy. It's their friendship that sustains them. It's a story of just survival in Central Europe as it teeters between wars. Thanks so much. I hope that you check out all of our amazing books at groveatlantic.com, and we'll hopefully see you in real life soon.
Hi, I'm Ann Zangri, Senior Manager, Marketing Services at Ingram Content Group. We're thrilled to present upcoming titles from independent publishers distributed by Publishers Group West, Two Rivers Distribution, and Ingram Publisher Services.
Hello, I'm Joshua Bodwell from David R. Godine Publisher, distributed by Two Rivers. And I'm truly honored to present Beneficence, the debut novel by New York Times best-selling memoirist Meredith Hall. Set in the hope-filled years after World War II, Beneficence is the story of the Center family, who have built themselves an Eden-like life on their isolated dairy farm in Maine. But when tragedy strikes, this close-knit family is shattered. Hall's hypnotic prose illuminates the effects of love and loss as it explores the meaning of family and the possibilities of forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves. It is easy, as Meredith's editor, to sound a bit hyperbolic when describing how luminous Beneficence is. But I think that once you've read this book, you'll find that I'm actually being quite reserved in my praise.
Hello, my name is Elham from Dundurn Press, distributed by Ingram Publisher Services, and I'm excited to talk to you today about Seven by Farzana Doctor, a really beautiful and soulfully written novel about inheritance and resistance and how that can test the balance between modern and traditional practices in a community. In Seven, Farzana tells the story of Sharifa, a woman who travels back to her ancestral home in Mumbai, India, in order to do research on her family, and in doing so discovers some very uncomfortable secrets, namely the practice of khatna in their community, that is a form of female genital cutting. And so, afraid that she might have undergone the practice herself and that her daughter might in turn be forced to undergo this procedure, Sharifa's forced to take a side in the debate, and in doing so creates many more divisions in her family and in her community. Farzana is known for blending strong social justice themes with beautiful, compelling, character-driven novels. She's won many awards, including the Lambda Award for 6 Meters of Pavement. This is the perfect book for readers who love Shilpa Somaya Gowda's novels that are about diasporic Indian families, written with deep emotional candor and poignancy. I really hope you'll pick up Seven. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Michael Reynolds. I'm the editor-in-chief of Europa Editions, the publisher of Elena Ferrante, whom you may know from her previous novels, My Brilliant Friend, which was an international bestseller and a New York Times bestseller. But I'm actually here to talk to you about Elena Ferrante's new book, which is called The Lying Life of Adults. We'll be publishing this book on September 1st in 2020. And we're very, very excited about this book at Europa Editions, not only because there's a large and enthusiastic, passionate readership for Elena Ferrante's books out there, but also because we're convinced at Europa that this is probably Ferrante's finest novel to date. It tells the story of Giovanna, a young girl who, as the story opens, overhears her father saying that she's changing, she's becoming something different, she's turning ugly, she's turning into her Aunt Vittoria. And Giovanna sets out to find out who this Aunt Vittoria is and who it is she's turning into. It's a story about identity, about coming of age. It's set in Naples, like My Brilliant Friend. There are so many ways into this book for reading groups. It's a book about women's lives, about family, about adolescence, about growing up, about identity. It's a wonderful book for book groups, and I hope you'll take it into consideration. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Laura Stanfill from Forest Avenue Press, distributed by PGW. Today I'm here to tell you about A Small Crowd of Strangers, the new novel by longtime bookseller Joanna Rose. I love this book, and not just because it starts in my hometown of Montclair, New Jersey. Patty Ann Anthony is a librarian and a dreamer. She's a hero for those of us who wonder about the world so much we can get swept up in possibility. In Patty Ann's case, it all starts with marrying Michael Brand, who, as it turns out, is a fundamentalist Catholic. He's cute and much sweeter to her than her last boyfriend, though. Michael proposes when his father is in the hospital. Patty Ann says yes, wanting to cheer everyone up, and then the newlyweds move to St. Cloud, Minnesota, where Michael gets hired to teach at a Catholic school. While he protests at the abortion clinic, Patty Ann works at a New Age bookstore. Michael can't wait for a baby. Patty Ann isn't sure she even wants a husband. Then, as if things aren't complicated enough, Michael finds Patty Ann's birth control pills. Joanna gives us both characters' points of view through the heady days of dating and the pileup of misunderstandings. Also, there's a dog named Bullfrog. A Small Crowd of Strangers is funny, sad, and beautifully human. It follows Joanna Rose's first novel, Little Miss Strange, and it's available in September in paperback, ebook, and Blackstone audiobook. Thanks so much for your time.
Hi everyone, Curtis here from House of Nancy, distributed by PGW, and I'm here to talk to you about one of my absolute favorite books, Megan Gale Cole's Small Game Hunting at the Local Coward Gun Club. If you're like me and you love a beautiful, heart-wrenching book, then you absolutely have to pick this one up. It's set on a cold February day in a coastal town in a fine dining restaurant as we follow a cast of characters as they prep, do food service, and clean up afterwards. It's really a story about the great racial and class divide that exists outside of the restaurant, but in the microcosm of that space, Megan is able to exemplify who each of these characters are. It's a story about who has access to power and who does not, and why. It's about how people are treated and seen by outsiders, by their friends, by their family. Megan Gale Coles writes with such aptness. You feel the visceral pain of her characters. This is not an easy book to read, but it is absolutely worth it. It is a story that we have to talk about. Megan warns us at the beginning. She says, this may hurt a little, be brave. And if you go to this book with generosity, then you will absolutely love it and will be having conversations of your own. If you ever get a chance to hear Megan read, her theater background will blow you away. You cannot miss this book, Small Game Hunting at the Local Coward Gun Club.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Timberlake, and I am the marketing director for Turner Publishing Company in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to take a minute to tell you about Kim Hooper's new book, All the Acorns on the Forest Floor. At first glance, this book is about motherhood, but it is so much more than just that. Told using a super clever storytelling device, the book is a composite novel, so it's a series of short stories within a larger story. And that larger story is all about relationships. Relationships between parents and children, between partners, and even between strangers. This character-driven novel is full of twists and turns and surprises, including when you find out where the title of the book is from. In the end, it's a story about the lengths we will go for the people we love. I think you'll love All the Acorns on the Forest Floor as much as I do, and we're really excited to release it under our new imprint, Keylight Books, this September. I think it is honestly one of the strongest, most touching novels we have ever published, so I'm really excited to get it into your hands. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Baby Pillay, publisher of Tor, Teen, and Starscape, and I'm here to talk about a couple of our Fall 20 titles. I'm really excited today to be not wearing my pajamas and actually in makeup for you. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. When Don Weisberg, the president of Macmillan, told me he had a manuscript he wanted me to read, I was intrigued. When he told me who it was, I was over the moon. I knew that Tor was a perfect place for Christopher Paolini's new book, his first in over a decade. Christopher was the author that made every kid want to be Aragon, have wild adventures, and have their own personal dragon. To Sleep in the Sea of Stars, he has written a novel that will challenge our perceptions of humanity and of first contact, and it also contains some of the best space battles I've ever read. Kira Naviras unearths an alien artifact, and she and humanity will never be the same again. It's fun, and best of all, it has an alien suit. And it's an origin story unlike anything you've read before. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I don't need to tell you about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. You've all been so amazing with your effusive praise and support for this novel that I am just blown away. Thank you so much for the love for V and for Addie. And just so you know, Addie is in over 46,000 to-read shelves on Goodreads. And in case you haven't read the story yet, this is this tale of Addie, who made a deal with the devil for immortality, but with one catch. No one will remember her until one day a chance encounter will change her life. I can't wait for this to be out in October and see how the world reacts. Attack Surface by Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow has written a killer standalone novel that's perfect for fans of Mr. Robot or The Circle, and also happens to be set in the world of Doctorow's New York Times bestselling titles Little Brother and Homeland. This novel is perfect for today and the world that we live in. When a counter-terrorist skills are used against the very people she loves, she'll have to make a decision between security and freedom. Like everything Cory does, it's timely and will make you think, all the while racing to the end. Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive series is one of the world's most popular fantasy series, and we will have the 4th installment out in November. At over 400,000 words, this book is a literal doorstopper. It has one of the most exceptional series growth trajectories that I've ever seen in fantasy, and we can't wait to give the world more Sanderson. And since I've already read a bit, I guess I can give some hints. Oh wait, can't I? Let's see. While Dalinar is away at war, his home gets invaded. Did I reveal too much? Don't tell anyone. Burning Roses by S.L. Huang. Queer older aunties try to shoot down the sun is the core of this book. I can't think of anything we need more in this time period than a fairy tale. And what's a fairy tale without love and family, demons, and the gods? And who better than Huang to turn a fairy tale inside out? Unlike the usual story of a young woman, there are 2 middle-aged women, and like the best of Torah.com, this is an Asian-inspired fantasy a la Nebo and J.Y. Yang. And right now, who doesn't need a bit of fantasy in their lives? Ring Shot by P. Jelly Clark can be summed up by these words. In America, demons wear white hoods. Nebula Locus, an award-winning author, P. Jelly Clark gives us Ring Shout, a dark fantasy historical novella that gives a supernatural twist to the Ku Klux Klan reign of terror inspired by the Red Summer of 1919. Clark's newest novella touches upon historical Black trauma in the deep American South and racism in all of its ugly forms under the terror of the Ku Klux Klan, and it's perfect for fans of Jordan Peele's Get Out or Victor LaValle's The Ballad of Black Tom. And in this story, the Ku Klux Klan has a plan to raise hell on earth, literally. It's an amazing, haunting read, and I hope you love it as much as we do.
Hey everybody, I'm Alexa Waco from Soho Press. Today I'm going to be talking about some very exciting fall titles from across our imprints. First up, we have the aspirationally and appropriately titled This Time Next Year We'll Be Laughing by Jacqueline Winspear. Jacqueline Winspear is the New York Times bestselling author of the Maisie Dobbs series, which is set in England in the aftermath of the First World War. And it made her a household name, so we are very excited to have her first memoir. And in this memoir, she lays bare her own family history and also the ways it inspired her writing. I think this book will be very surprising in a great way to Maisie Dobbs fans. And then also is just really great for anyone who likes a good page-turning memoir. In this, Jacqueline covers her own life story, taking readers from the baby boom of post-war London through her emigration to the US and everything in between. It's frank and restrained, and it also tackles very difficult, poignant, and fascinating family memories, like her childhood spent picking hops in the Kent countryside, her paternal grandfather's shell shock, which is the inspiration for the Maisie Dobbs series, and then also some of her family's memories when they were living with the Romani people, among many more. But I think what's most important is that it shines a spotlight on the human spirit in times of great hardship, which feels very, very prescient right now. So that is This Time Next Year We'll Be Laughing by Jacqueline Winspear. Okay, next up we have The Finisher by Peter Lovesey. Peter Lovesey is a Mystery Writers of American Grand Master. He is often called the Titan of the British detective novel, and this is the 19th installment of the Detective Peter Diamond series. He is a legendary crime writer. We are so lucky to have him. And I could spend the rest of my time here listing his awards, but trust me, there are a lot of them. And I'm extra excited to say that The Finisher is publishing near the 50th anniversary of his debut novel, the publication of his debut novel. That is 50 years of crime writing he has under his belt. So through a particularly ill-fated series of events, Couch Potato Maeve Kelly, who is an elementary school teacher, has found herself signed up for the other half, which is Bath's Springtime Marathon. Maeve has always been told by her mother that curvy girls shouldn't bother trying to be fit. She has been a bit disparaged for her body type, so she sets out to prove her mother wrong. However, what Maeve doesn't count on is just how vicious some of the other runners are. Enter Detective Peter Diamond, who has been tasked with crowd control on the day of the race, which should be kind of a standard run-of-the-fair assignment. However, he happens to catch sight of a violent criminal in the crowd, one he put away decades ago and who apparently has recently been paroled. Diamond's hackles are raised for good reason, as he later learns that one of the runners never returned or never crossed the finish line, rather, and has disappeared. I'll give you a few guesses as to who that might be. Peter's mysteries are always these amazing, ingenious puzzles. He's well loved in the crime writing community and beyond. So we hope that you have fun with this one. That's The Finisher by Peter Lovesey, and happy 50th anniversary to him. Next up, we have The Revolution According to Raimundo Mata by Gina Apostol. This is the first ever U.S. publication of Gina's Philippine National Book Award-winning novel. We published her previous novel, Insurrecto, in 2018, and this is very much in the same playful metafiction literary spirit as Insurrecto is and was. The Revolution According to Raimundo Mata is the story of Raimundo Mata, who is a 19th century anti-Spanish Philippine revolutionary. And in his memoir, he traces his own childhood, his love affairs, his education in Manila, and also his discovery of the revolutionary writer, Jose Rizal. However, his narrative in his memoir is complicated by three kind of warring, quarrelsome, and very funny voices. A nationalist editor, a neo-Freudian psychoanalyst, and also a translator who will be familiar to those who read Insurrecto, Mimi C. Maxilin. In telling Mata's story, Apostol finds ways to make the reader laugh, to play with narrative, but also ways to depict the violence of the Spanish colonial era in the Philippines, and also to reimagine the nation's great writer, Jose Rizal, who is considered by many to be the father of Philippine independence and who was executed by the Spanish for his revolutionary activities. The publication of Raimundo Mata is a huge literary event for us, and we hope for you too. We've been able to have Gina brilliantly revise and also expand her incredible novel for this edition. And, keep an eye out for Raimundo if you are looking for an intoxicating blend of fact and fiction. Next up, we have a very exciting political thriller debut from Jasmine Imak called The Opium Prince. The Opium Prince is set in Afghanistan in the 1970s, and it follows a man named Daniel Sahadi, who was born to an American mother and a late Afghan war hero, and has spent most of his life in Los Angeles in the United States, and also navigating this complex identity. However, when he gets a job at the helm of a U.S. foreign aid agency dedicated to eradicating the poppy fields that feed the world's opiate addiction, he and his wife move to Kabul. One night on an anniversary drive that they take after a dinner on the way out from Kabul, Daniel inadvertently hits and kills a young Kochi girl named Talaya. He's let off with a nominal fine, mostly because nomad tribes are largely ignored in the eyes of the law, but also after the intervention of a mysterious witness. He later learns that this witness is named Taj Maleki, and he is one of the most powerful opium khans in the area. Maleki begins to blackmail Daniel, which Daniel has to deal with as he's dealing with the incredible guilt that he feels for having inadvertently taken Talaya's life. This is an incredible debut from a very promising new voice, Jasmine Imak, and it traces the invisible lines between criminal enterprises and political regimes, and is definitely a can't-miss book for the fall. Last but not least, I have a very exciting title from Soho Teen coming out in December. That is Finding My Voice by Marie Myung-Ok Lee. This one is actually a reissue. It was originally published in the early 90s, but it holds a special place in young adult history. It is widely considered the first novel starring an Asian American teen to have been written and published by an Asian American author. It is as contemporary and relevant now as it was decades ago, very much in the vein of classics like Eleanor and Park, or also a more recent classic, Frankly in Love. And it follows 17-year-old Ellen Sung, who, like a lot of teenagers, just wants to fit in at school. However, she is the youngest daughter of the only Korean American family in town, and the racist bullies at school won't let her forget that she's different. When she begins to fall for the popular football player Tom Sandel, she is shocked to find out that he is falling for her too, and they begin to date. But really, the book becomes about Ellen finding her voice and also speaking up against discrimination she's facing at school, and also expressing to her friends and family what she really wants and who she is. So that is Finding My Voice by Marie Myung-Ok Lee, and we are really excited to bring it to a whole new generation of readers. And that's it for me. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can always visit us at sohopress.com. Our galleys are available on NetGalley and Edelweiss, and we hope to see you there. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope that from that great list of titles that you just heard about, you found a number that you want to read and discuss with your book group. Also, for more information about these books, go over to readinggroupguides.com, where I'm happy to share that we're celebrating 20 years of bringing you great materials for discussing books with your book groups, as well as discussion guides that help to enable those conversations. We love book groups, and we love the way the book groups can share a discussion about a book and maybe help you see it in a whole different light. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next year.